Hi, I'm Dr. Stan Steindl, and welcome to Compassion in a T-shirt in session with Chris Fraser. Chris is a therapist with over 20 years experience working with individuals, couples, families, and in particular, he has a passion for working with children, adolescents, and adults to help them to learn and develop compassionate mind skills. He's from Dublin, Ohio, in the USA. Along with his wife, Heather Doyle Fraser, he's the author of the book Freedom: How Teens Can Use Mindful Compassion to Thrive in a Chaotic World and Grow a Purpose-Driven Life. He's such a lovely person, and I hope you enjoy being in session with my friend Chris Fraser. Well, welcome, Chris Fraser.
Stan, so great to see you.
It's really great to see you as well.
Fellow Beatles fan.
I'm absolutely impressed. Not only compassion in a t-shirt, but compassion in a Beatles t-shirt, which is...
That's right. And you can tell how loved it is because it's so beat up and old. And if I stand up for you, you guys can see the message of the day.
All you need is love.
All you need is love. And now we're going to be talking to you about how do we cultivate it and what do we do when there's a lack of it, and how do we bring compassion into our lives and more love. Ta-da.
Absolutely. It all for you and I think it kind of traces back to our first Beatles record, and we might get into that. But you were just describing coming across Sergeant Pepper's as a 5-year-old, and I remember, Please Me, at about the same age. So I started at the other end of the Beatles career, but it all becomes one. But we first, actually, our relationship really began, I think, as one of those social media ones where we first started interacting, online, I think, and that's several years ago now.
I remember being really compelled by a lot of the synchronicity.
Yes.
And like, oh my gosh, somebody who resonates with the message of John Lennon, and who and then watching you travel, and the post that you made, just and the way you spoke about your love for your children, is, I remember going, oh, this is a kindred spirit.
Yes. Oh, that's...
I remember, and then I was just I remember that was just such a nice thing, knowing that there's another soul that's touched by many of the same things you're touched by.
Yes,
so
I feel the same way. In fact, we must be about the same era, as well.
Yeah, I'm 50. I have no. Yeah, I'll be 51 May.
Yeah, right. I'm 50 in October. So,
all right. See, look, we're right there.
Yeah, exactly. You've weathered a bit better than me. I've gone really downhill with my...
I think it's the ring light. It's glamming me up a bit.
Yeah. But I also remember, finally meeting you and Heather, your wife, face to face at Dennis Church's Compassion Summit. So that was a joy as well. Where, by the way, I picked up my copy of this, Freedom, and so that wonderful book for young people. But yeah, so well, actually, we haven't really had a chance to have a big conversation about all things, and so I'm looking forward.
Yeah, me too.
I wondered,
there's so many of us, and so much beautiful things happening that we didn't really get the time to really step aside and really share, our work, our lives, our views, those things. So we didn't get that.
We did have lunch, actually.
We did have lunch. I remember sitting down with Yotam and yourself and Marcella.
Yes. Yep.
Lovely moment.
Yes. That I remember that very fondly. But so I'm keen to sort of find out a bit more about you. So tell us a bit about yourself. I guess your sort of life, your journey into, well, maybe therapy and as a therapist, but also obviously this compassion thing,
Yeah.
and compassion focused therapy. Yeah, what would you say about all that?
Well, it's interesting for me. I remember bringing this up in a workshop with Dennis Tersch in New York City when Paul Gilbert was there.
Right.
And this question was asked to the audience. And I shared, it's very personal, but I felt compelled to share it. So when I was a little boy, um, my mom and dad were very young, and they were in the middle of graduate school.
Mm,
And at that point in time, I remember my dad working on his dissertation. And I remember he would be typing, and then he'd get so overwhelmed, he would cry. And my
mm,
mom would comfort him. And there were moments, very tense moments there. And my parents were just here today visiting.
mm,
But I remember my mother slamming a door in an argument and then coming in there and then climbing. I still remember climbing up the bed and then putting my hand, going, "Mom, it's okay.
mm,
It's okay." And I remember having this overwhelming feeling of just, I want to help.
mm,
I want to help. And I knew my dad was a helper, psychologist. My dad's a psychologist.
mhm,
And I remember, and Isabel LaBroof, she says, "Chris, you felt the joy of compassion." And Isabel, and I remember having that feeling. And in my little growing up book, it says, age 5, what do you want to do? I want to be a helper. And I remember that distinctly. And I tell my mom,
mm,
because that was a hard time for them. And they were very young. And I remember that you seeing suffering and wanting to do something about it, your own mother.
mm,
And then lovely Basil van der Kolk, a few weeks ago during a workshop, said, many of us come to therapy in order to save our mothers. And whoa, where'd that come from? Well,
mm,
that resonates with me.
mm,
And then from there, when I entered school, I discovered that I had a learning disability, a difference, I should say.
mhm,
And I remember noticing, like, how come those children can do this and I can't?
mm,
And, noticing that out of that suffering, and then, but always, even on the psychological tests that I had growing up, assessments, there was like this, one of my core strengths was this kid cares about other people and other things.
mm,
And there's one distinct memory I have when I was probably around 4 or 5.
mm,
My mom and dad are from upstate New York. It was Christmas, and my uncle had this big, fluffy Samoan dog, big, like husky.
mm,
And the poor thing was in the garage. And I got up in the middle of the night feeling so bad for the dog. I remember holding on, they had slippery stairs, and I was going down, trying not to fall, tumble. And I go into the garage and I lay on the step and I put my arm around the dog, and I fell asleep all night, and they couldn't find me in the morning. And I still remember being there with my arm around the dog, the poor thing all by itself, out in the garage in upstate New York, gets feet of snow. It's near Syracuse, the lake, you get the lake effect. And
mm,
so it's cold, but I'm holding this dog. And so I remind myself that there was this call. And when I work with kids, I see that goodness. The first question a child comes into my office, I go, tell me what your superpowers are. And what do you mean? I go, what do you love? What's the stuff you could do without anybody even teaching you? And
mm,
then I ask the parent, and they're ready to go, okay, you fix this kid. And I go, what makes your child beautiful? What do you love about them? When you first held them, there's things you noticed, you sensed in them that nobody taught them.
mm,
And what I hear, Stan, even the kids who have some conduct problems, when we get down to it, the parent tears up and they say, they have a good heart.
mm,
They have a good heart. Even if they've come in angry and agitated. And so that reminds me that innate goodness in children coming into this world with these gifts and abilities. And I go back and remembering that call to compassion, seeing suffering. I was on a walk with a kid, a young man, And there was a caterpillar, and he goes, "Oh, caterpillar!" And he goes down. He goes, his eyes teared up, and he goes, "Oh, it's dead." And
Mm.
he took up some, he buried it. He said a little prayer, and this kid was kicked out of school for punching people.
Mm.
And so seeing that, and then fostering that, and then how do we direct that compassion to himself, to ourselves,
Mm.
that I see instinctively there in children. And when I used to work in foster care and adoptions, I would see these teenage mothers and their little children trying to take care of them
Mm.
instinctually. They could sense mom is dysregulated,
Mm.
you know, and they would try to help, so that human, seeing suffering, and then the response to care.
Mm.
And of course, with the foster, that's quite complex when you think about attachment and fostering. But even those little kids, you would see that.
Mm.
So my story goes
Mm.
way back, and then the journey from that place
Mm.
forward.
Mm. Yeah.
And then I realized, you know, gosh, I need to do something about this. And then I came across, it's interesting. I came across Buddhism,
Mm.
and it was interesting. Like in college, uh, I ran into a book called A Journey of Awakening by Ram Dass.
Mm.
And Richard Alport, the Harvard professor that was friends with Timothy Leary, and then left and found his own path, went to India a number of times, and then brought some of those traditions back. And there was something, you know, about his message in there. And then I went to Nepal my senior year of college
Mm.
and studied in a Buddhist monastery for a week, and then lived in a family. And then I suffered greatly. I suffered because seeing the suffering, the children with no shoes and sick and leprosy. And it was almost like the Buddha going out of the golden palace and seeing real suffering that's not hidden from us in the West. And then sitting in the monastery, and then one time getting so extremely sick that I was up all night in Kopan Monastery overlooking Kathmandu. And it was like a Tonglen meditation occurred in my mind for my mom's friend who had cancer. Let me take this suffering from her so she can have rest. And then also may I have compassion for my own suffering as I lay up here. And it opened my heart, Stan. And
Mm.
it was a beautiful thing that occurred for me. It really sort of woke me up, and I started meditating. And it was a journey that really started me on this journey of compassion. Um, and many times during that time of growing up, there's times I didn't think I could do it. I
Mm.
didn't think I could like make it through graduate school because with the dyslexia and ADHD, I was just struggling. But the compassion work and the meditation, and then that going back to that little kid, I need to do this because I need to be able to be of help. I need to be of help. Somebody needs who has suffered this way needs to be in this spot. Because I went to a therapist my senior year in high school, and he just sat there and goes, "How does it make you feel?" And I go, "I don't know." Okay, come back next week. We'll
Yeah.
talk again. I
Mm.
mean, you'll talk, and I'll sit here looking at the clock. And so I said, somebody needs to do something, who's suffered, who's been there, but also has the understanding that you have greatness in you, have beauty, you have gifts, you have strengths and abilities. You're more than your deficits. You're more than the itty bitty crappy committee in your mind that tells you these things.
Mm.
And I remember in high school looking in a mirror, in my parents' car, and seeing my acne-ridden face and going, "God, I hate you."
Mm.
And nobody knew. It was painful. So painful the pain we can inflict on, so kind, saving little bugs. But then, oh, I hate you.
Mm.
How that can turn,
Mm.
we know with the evolutionary science, how that if we turn on ourselves and attack that thing that we don't like, but it's within us. And so, owie. But I remember that, and I write about it in the book. And I remember I'm going to say this, and then a lot of teens go, "Oh my God, you too." you wouldn't look in mirrors, so you wouldn't see yourself because you didn't, it was that painful.
Mm.
But but then to be able to actually look at yourself, even like on Zoom, we see ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of times it goes to, you said, man, I didn't age as well as you. And I'm looking at you going, you look like, man, I would love to have that hairline, man. And how that works, it's like, holy crap, you're like a Hugo Boss kind of advertisement. But might look at me and go, damn, look at, whatever, so, but anyway, Stan, that's some of my unpacking it. And and then having, for me, is having a group of people. I was a soccer player. I was a football soccer player.
Mm.
And when I was running free, I was out of my mind and I could run like a wild man. And then I was with a tribe of people who were there for me. And I became a captain of the team eventually. And I was a very shy kid because I didn't want people to know my shoulders still sometimes roll. And so I'd pull into myself. But on the field, I could be free.
Mm.
And because I'd suffered, like when I would notice, like when other players would get down and I would come over and pick them up, if I knocked somebody down, I'd pick them up off the ground. And being in that leadership role of being able to do something, but also be strong and powerful, really helped me get through that
Mm.
one place of competency. Didn't feel good in the classroom, but on the field, physically, and being part of that group really helped me pull through.
Mm.
Um, and then I had a best friend who I played with, and I remember he and I saying, God, if we lived in hunting and gathering time, we'd be king of the hill. And these national merit scholars, they'd be eaten by lions within a day. And now and we were saying that, and then he now is one of the top chefs in New York City in Manhattan,
Right.
and where his creativity and his hyperactiveness is just. I think he won the best fries in Manhattan last year. I think he won some award for the best French fries.
Nice.
But so I could jam out on that, but that's part of my story.
Mm.
And then when I became a therapist, what was hard was, oh, you're not as good as your dad. Oh, your dad's written 5 books and speaks around the world. And then I was able to move through that with compassion. And then I got my dad a gig with Steve Hayes, the father of ACT.
Mm.
And Steve, we got talking, and I told him, I said, my dad gave up a bit of his career for me and cut back. And my mom said, I can't, you're working too much. I can't do this. And he cut back for me and cut his career back because he was running with world famous people at that time.
Mm.
And he cut back his work. And Steve said, how about you and your dad and I do something? And I said, it's like a little boy being able to help his dad again.
Mm.
And Steve said, this one really makes me smile. And it was really neat to have that, to be able to give back, because my dad sacrificed his career. He was very good friends with the solution focused folks in the early stages.
Right.
He was friends with like Insoo Kim Berg and Steve Zashazer would come to my house, the founders of solution focused therapy.
Wow.
And Eve Lipchicks was part, and Bill Hanlon. They're all therapists that would be part, and he's part of the MRI Mental Research Institute in Palo Alto. So some of those people, Richard Fish, and some of those people would be a part of our lives. And then my dad goes, hey, I was the same guy who didn't think I knew shit either. I love you, son. So that's a little bit of the window. I have an interesting way in because not many people have and then my dad also struggled with dyslexia, and sometimes he still sometimes say, gosh, that teacher said, Scotty Fraser, you are so intelligent. Your IQ is up here, but you're just lazy. And his eyes choked up when he told me that like a year ago.
Mm.
So that hurt.
Mm.
And so I found compassion work for that little boy, to hold that little kid. And dad's still learning. No, I do it for him. He's still learning. We were talking today, and I've been meditating for years, and he's finally found Tai Chi. He goes, oh, Tai Chi is more my thing because I move. And I go, yeah, because that busy mind is a wicked thing. He goes, yeah, you're right. So it's fun. I'm taking you all over the map. So I know I could talk all day. So please interrupt me to take us. You want to take us in a different direction.
No, no. I mean, there's a lot in there. I mean, I've just been, eagerly listening to your storytelling, and that is something that you are exquisite at. Is that
Thank
ability to weave a story and a personal story with
you.
insights and messages, and to listen to you and to watch you speak, as well. You speak with your whole body, and it's kind of just so kind of engaging and capturing of one's
Mhm.
attention to listen
Thank you.
and watch. Um, and you do have some beautiful YouTube. Actually, it reminded me of one or two of those that you've done, and I might kind of include those in the link below. But you're just so you just are so expressive. Um,
Mm.
and there's so much in there. I mean, I think that idea that we really are born with this capacity to kind of get it. Even when we don't get it, we sort of get it because we sense it, or we feel it, and we are able. What I mean, you're at a young age really empathize and mentalize and look at another person, and we get it. We can see the suffering or feel it or sense it or something, and almost can't help but then feel moved by that, and
Yes.
a deep desire to help, especially like one's mother, for example. That desire really arises sometimes, but just all living beings, even right from the start. It's
Yeah.
actually all living beings, and the beautiful husky dog, or the tiny caterpillar, or the parent or the friend at school. We just really seem to be programmed that way. And that just, I love those two questions that you might ask a young person and their parent. What is your superpower? I mean,
Yeah.
it just goes straight for the strength and beauty of a person. And then
Yes.
what is the thing that is most beautiful or something about your
What,
child?
yeah. Yeah.
And that,
What makes your child beautiful?
what makes your child beautiful? Yeah, and that just, it just turns the table on things, doesn't it? It just, suddenly we're looking at things from a whole, looking at another person, from this whole different perspective, and yes, and then yet at this very same time, we beat the heck out of ourselves,
Yes.
and there you are as this lovely little blonde 5-year-old, I'm guessing,
Yo, blonde is it? Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Blonde can be.
being so loving, and then as a teenager, so attacking of oneself
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yes.
We have that capacity too.
Yes. And then I also the gratitude for having a stable base of parents that nurtured that in you,
Mm,
and then having that. And I tell my parents that because you've given me this stable base, it has allowed me to be of help to others. And it's almost like I feel the call to use that so I can launch from here for others who were born into very, very, very challenging, very difficult, possibly abusive, or really where they suffered. You
mm,
know, that I can lend that base and move through that and launch from there.
mm,
And then to you know but even when I worked with very, very impoverished families, you would see that beauty in that kid created great crimes.
mm,
You would see that loveliness,
mm,
like they'd be so great with animals, or they'd be so kind to a younger child, and you would see that, and you light that up in
mm,
them. And I would remind the, the policemen and other people around them, I said, they're more of a harm to them, potentially to themselves than anybody else, because they're wicked to themselves internally with how harsh they are
mm,
with their internal thoughts and self-attacking, stuff that they inflict on themselves.
mm, mm,
So you just see that time and time again. And, I remember a story about a boy who had he'd light fires and all kinds of stuff. And he wouldn't speak very much, but he noticed the artwork. He noticed some of my aunt's artwork that I had from the Freedom Book.
mm.
And it was a tree, the tree of life. It's called Yggdrasil in in the Norse mythology. And I saw him looking at it, and I handed him a piece of paper, and he just started
Mm,
drawing and drawing. And I said, "Wow, that's amazing!" And I showed his parents, and then he starts talking to me, you know. And
mm.
then I encouraged him to try for a scholarship, and he won an art scholarship for summer classes.
Oh,
And he just started just growing this piece of, he just became, and he was able to move and have some compassion like he would for little animals in his artwork. He would come out and express, and that gift just came out, and he found something. He had nothing. He lived in a trailer park, had hardly anything in his life.
mm,
Um, so you see these things, and people are about to throw away the key and put them in an institution.
mm,
And there is this little thing, this gift he had. And then his parents even saw it, and oh my gosh, you won a scholarship. And
mm,
it switched. So
mm,
this beauty of, we're not broken, we're not defective. And Paul Gilbert, hey, you didn't design or engineer this thing. You were given this mind with these primitive instincts to
mm,
attack and to close in under threat, and to, you know get into these places with yourself.
mm,
You choose it. It's not your fault.
mm.
It's
Yeah.
not your fault.
It's a sort of an incredible almost contradiction within us, isn't it? The two
Yes.
ends of this spectrum, almost the sort of um, the deeply compassionate sort of side of our innate kind of nature, as well as this callous or cruel side, and the way that we can turn that so viciously on ourselves,
And quickly. And
viciously,
very,
quickly, and sort of unreasonably, really.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Unreasonably.
Uh, and we all do it, and it seems to be just part of the deal as well.
Yeah.
I noticed
I
that there's
tell, I
definitely a
tell the kids, if you see another human being, if they're still here, that's because they have this tricky mind. And but I always say to them, like, if we played a game, Stan, so Stan, what am I thinking? And you say, oh, well, maybe how to help me, Chris. I go, no, I'm thinking about beans. And they laugh, and I'm like, we have unlimited access to what's going on in our own mind, none to anybody else. That's why it's so hard to be a human.
just sort of talk a bit more about that then. That not, because on the one hand we have incredible access, don't we, and through empathy and mentalizing.
Mm.
But on the other hand, like you're saying there, we never really know what the other person's thinking, and we often think it's about us, or we assume the worst. So, what are your thoughts there?
Oh, yeah. So like with the teens, they start giggling, because like, oh, beans, yeah. And then having that you know, they're like, why beans? I go, because you would never guess I was thinking about beans. So I'm thinking of beans, beans. And so that unlimited access to your own mental world, and nobody has that.
Yes.
But so when I look at you, Stans might be thinking, Chris is talking too much and he has a booger, and I wish I could tell him, but we're on screen.
Yeah.
And you might, so we're always mentalizing in order to, we all want to be loved and included, because we're these little tribal peoples,
Mm,
have these instincts to watch other people. Do they love me? Do they accept me? Am I enough? Am I contributing enough? Am I talking too much?
mm,
And so we have this social mentality, But because we don't know, we can't see, your dog doesn't worry about tomorrow or doesn't eat, a 50-pound bag of dog food when you're not looking and then throw up all night and say, I have no willpower. I'm horrible. They're going to call me fat dog tomorrow. They're going to make fun of me. They don't do that. They don't get ulcers.
Yeah.
But as a human being, the compassion, because it is so difficult, it's so beautiful. And we can savor things. We can remember sunset and feel that. But we can also punish ourselves where something we did that occurred, and we can rewind it over and over in our mind, evoking all this horrible feeling. That's why the wisdom of CFT, the wisdom of a lot of the things we can teach, really is like freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's freedom. And every one of us will get trapped. Paul Gilbert, Dennis Tersh, Steve Hay, any of us, if you're human, if you're still breathing, you will get hooked. You will get trapped.
Yeah.
But with compassion and wisdom and courage, then it's okay, it's not my fault. Well, what can I do? And when you join together with other people, even like teens especially, because they want, then you go, oh my gosh, you too? You don't look in mirrors?
Mm.
You know, oh, you purposely sometimes uh, act like you're sick to avoid things with your friends. Oh, I do that too. you know and then that becomes that ability that we all have secret sorrows,
Mm.
but when we come together, our suffering evokes that compassion and that attunement with one another that gives us strength.
Mm.
Oh, you too.
Mm.
Like Stan, for you to say I look young, I was like, who's he to say that? He looks like a model, and I look like, I don't know, a cue ball. Inner critic is like that.
Yeah.
I tell kids, I say, when do you look in the mirror when you wake up in the morning and go, I look good? No, it usually goes to like, oh, I got another zit. It goes, it's a shit, excuse my language. Well, yes, I'll say it. The mind's a shit magnet. It is. It's a shit magnet. It's like, where's the shit? The shit could eat you. Where's the shit? And
Yeah.
so, if we become like a joy hunter, knowing that, the Velcro is the shit. Oh, I'm stuck to the shit. Ah, damn it. Mm. But the joy and then noticing, like, and then we pick up the shit stick and go, God, I hit, and then you're covering your eye. I suck. I'm ugly. I'm stupid. I can't believe I said that in front of that guy I like. Oh, and then you're laying on the ground and you go, oh, and your friend was like, what? Why did you just do that? Oh, I needed to do that to learn, so I never say stupid things. But you knocked your teeth out and you're all bloody. It's like, oh, come on, friend, come here. They help you up, and they'll hold you, and sometimes they won't say anything. And good friends don't need to say anything. They just feel it, or they say, hey, that's bullshit. You know, you're not shit, so don't shit on yourself. You know,
Mm.
thank you. You know, so it's and you see it happen like that
Mm.
in all of our lives. It will happen so quick. So Viktor Frankl's, in between stimulus and response, there's that space.
Mm.
And in that space is your freedom and power to choose. Man's search for meaning. He observed between stimulus and response, there's a space. How do you find that space? And that's mindfulness. That's a mindful awareness. That's compassionate awareness. What's going on? Where am I now? Where's my mind? What can I do? I can ground my breathing, regulate myself because I'm in threat. I'm seeing Stan. Oh my God, I'm threat. Slowing down, grounding in the body because we're primitive. If our heart, we're not going to do long division. If our heart rate's up and we feel like we're going to get eaten by a lion, there's no way. Oh, sorry, I need to carry the one. Kitty, leave me alone. Do you want some sauce? No, you ground. Now you have that window. Now you have some choice. What's showing up? Russell Colts, a cheerleader in one of his classes, said, when in doubt, circle out. My threat, am I in drive? Am I in soothe? What do I need? Ah, you know. so, so just riffing on that a little bit. Yeah.
It's Yes, I mean, again, so much there that this idea of this social mentality. We're such. I often think, we're such a hyper social species, but so damn bad at it sometimes.
Yes.
So we look at other people, and of course, I'm sitting here just thinking, oh, Chris is so poetic and wise and deep of thinking and using metaphors. Like, can I keep up with him, intellectually in this
And
conversation?
my mind's going, holy shit, am I going too far out in left field? Am I taking them all over the place?
Yeah, I mean,
And so, and then that beautiful, just even in an interaction, the beauty of it, and how you share that and I share that, and then people watching this go, wow, we're human. Here's two therapists. We're human. Hey, we're all okay. Even when our mind and tells us we're not.
it's actually, quite often sort of good news in the end, isn't it? I mean, the good news is that actually, you know, people aren't really thinking half of what we think they're thinking.
No.
They're much more concerned about themselves. And
I had a
so,
best friend. I was a skinny kid. He took me to the weight room. He was built like a Greek god. He was Greek, actually. He
right.
looked like John Stamos from the 80s. All the girls loved him. And I was this skinny little thing. And I said, I'm not going in there. And he goes, come on. He takes me in. I'm lifting 10 pounds. And he did such a compassionate thing. He goes, now look around. It was a big weight weight room facility with mirrors. He goes, look around at all the people. Look at their eyes. He goes, nobody's looking at you. They're too worried about themselves.
Yeah.
My friend Chris Zunis. And I remember he helped me. He goes, I'm here with you, dude. He goes, I'm one of the strongest guys in this gym. And he really helped me with that.
Mm.
And he goes, look, they're too busy. And I looked, and they're all looking at themselves, going,
Yeah.
and it was such a gift he gave me.
Yeah. And also just that sort of awareness that we're all going through it at the same time. That's terribly comforting almost. Or, I mean, well, actually, that's a weird word to come out of my mouth,
Isn't it?
because we're all suffering, so that's not necessarily a good thing. But on the other hand, um, we can see another person. We up come our sort of fears about, sort of self-conscious fears. And then we realize perhaps actually they're not really looking at us. They're more concerned with themselves and looking at themselves in the mirror. And then we think, actually, well, actually they're going through it too. That actually the reason that they're so concerned about themselves is because they're worried about what everyone else is thinking. And so
Yeah, they want to be loved, accepted. They want
we
to,
all just want to be
feel
loved.
powerful, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I was talking with Charlie Herriot Maitland
Oh,
just last
that's
night.
lovely. Yeah.
I was talking to him because he's kind of supervising me in running their Compassionate Mind training course. So we were having a lovely chat last night about session 1. But one of the ways they sort of talk too is they talk about going out onto the balcony of our mind in a way, so that the mind is tricky, and as you say, and it gets all caught up in loops. Again, as you were referring to, we worry about what other people are thinking. We worry about and ruminate over something that happened yesterday. We worry about what might happen tomorrow. And they talk about stepping out onto the balcony and looking back into the mind. And that's a little bit like what you were describing before, the use of mindfulness and opening up a little bit to what's happening, and bringing that sort of mind awareness and also understanding and wisdom of all of these crazy elements of the brain, and how it sort of does all of this stuff, and trying to soothe and soften, create a different relationship with all of those systems of the brain that get so tricky.
Yes, yes. And with adolescence, I found out being active, like you mentioned, in the body is like taking it into action.
Mm.
A lot of like talking, like even standing up. Deirdre Fay, there's a lot of embodiment work.
Mm.
And so we embody our compassionate self. And a lot of times then, like in session and we'll, versus being here in our heads, being in in the moment with them in session.
Mm.
So for example, sometimes I'll be their mind and they've written down stuff, their inner critic has
Mm.
said. And when like online, we'll do a lot of like Tobin Bell and Matt Pugh's chair work.
Mhm, mhm.
We'll bring it really physically into this room. Like for example, you know, Stan, you'll be, talking to you as your compassionate self to, um, the inner critic here. And Stan, I'm going to step down to Australia and I'm going to be right here next to you. Okay. And so like, I'll step out and the teen is like, close your eyes, imagine that I'm here with my hand on your back as your compassionate other. And here in this chair, you know, and and you can see that expression. Oh my God, did you see that they did this to you? Did you see that right here? Dang, I got your back. It's okay. You know how it does that stuff sometimes. And we'll get into like a lot more active, interactive versus a lot of talk.
Yes.
And sometimes we'll even lay on the ground, like before COVID, and get our shit stick out, in the threat mode, and we'll get down there and we'll see if we can see this on the side. Can you see that? No. Oh, dang! Look what's happening. When we get caught, we can't see life is happening over here, or what's going on. So
Mm.
that's the one thing with adolescents, because I've noticed, the psycho ed part of CFT is lovely, but we got to bring it to life because they're going, okay, 3 circles, threat, drive, cortisol. What is it? Dopamine? Is that what's the hormone related to drive? Okay, but we get bringing that to life. Or, hey, Stan, put your hands up here. I have something very beautiful to hand you. Don't worry, it's not a turd or anything. It's safe.
I
All
love
right. So,
rubbish.
all right. So I just handed you a lovely little puppy. And this puppy we found under a car today, and it was whimpering. But when you kneel down, it looked at you and it go, "Stand safe. I trust Stan. I don't know why, but I trust him. That other people have hurt me." And so you bring that puppy to your heart, and then you feel this. Oh gosh, I won't hurt you. And so as you bring your hand to your heart, we're illustrating the soothing system, and then that puppy, you look down at it, and it closes its eyes for the first time, feeling safe. And you feel this overwhelming, compelling draw. Like I'm going to take care of you. And this puppy grows and grows and grows until it's like a Harry Potter. Like in the United States, we have Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Oh yeah.
It's like a 400-pound, and it's standing behind you now, Stan. And now it senses that you might be hurting, and I will not let anybody hurt you. You were there for me
Mm.
when I was wounded and injured, and I needed somebody.
Mm.
And the teenager is sensing that as we're talking about explaining the drive system or the soothing system. And they'll come back and go, oh, I felt that. I felt warm. Oh yeah, it was a golden retriever. And then I could feel its heartbeat and it was around me and it was going protecting me and it wouldn't let anybody F with me because it was 400 pounds. And I go, that's the soothing system, brother. Oh, wow. I felt that calm. My whole body felt calm. My
Mm.
stomach started gurgling. I was like, yeah, dude, you're doing it right. That's your digestive system. Because they'll notice their stomach gurgle, or the teenagers usually yawn because they're up all night. They're, I
Yeah.
go, look, it's working. You're yawning. See, that's a soothing system.
Uh,
So some of the
it-
things with teens is bringing it on that as we introduce some of those things.
yeah, there's a
At least
beautiful
my style.
weaving though, isn't there? I can,
Yeah.
like you were sort of talking about, sort of the informational bits and the sort of dopamine and whatever. But what I can see you do is it's in there. It's woven in throughout. It's woven into the stories. It's woven into the metaphors. Then there's the imagery. Then there's the kind of reflection and inquiry after practices, and always bringing it back to sort of reflection and noticing. And then there's the the sort of active behavioral body based sort of getting up and about and doing stuff. Even online, you're getting people reaching and doing and ultimately embodying. In fact, when you were telling me your dad was getting more into Tai Chi because he liked the movement stuff, I was thinking, man, I get that too, because there is something about staying, kind of movement, staying with movement and the practice of all of that. And so, there's just this sort of glorious, almost by stealth, kind of packaging of the psychoeducation, which can feel a bit dry sometimes, but it's beautifully packaged up in all of these entry points of imagery, the body, the awareness, the movement, the stories.
Yeah. And it's wild. They'll remember, like even after a year, they go, oh yeah, that's like the puppy. And I held the puppy and it was like, oh yeah, and I remembered that. And they'll remember. And I remember, Freud would say, go ask the poets. Go
Right.
ask the poets. Go ask those bastards. They know. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The poets know, the storytellers, the poets.
Yeah.
Go ask them.
Yes, the imagery is so powerful. I love that stuff, and the chair work that you described, getting people sort of doing it. By the way, I really like the look of the covering on your chair. That looks sort of uber comfortable.
That is it. I'm in a basement, so that's like for warmth, but also it's so cozy.
Now, Chris, I'll actually have to let you go in a moment because it's late over there and early over here. But one of the things that I've just been checking in with people, because I do like things in threes. And so this was the bit where I was sort of keen to know, I mean, what would be your three tips? Now, I reckon there's 100 tips that you've already said today, which are incredible. But if people are just sort of thinking about compassion and incorporating it into their life, maybe the self-compassion, or across the three flows and so on, what would be your three tips, three things that they could do or think about to help them along the way?
Well, you're right that the hard part is narrowing it down.
Yeah, I
Because you're
thought
like,
so.
oh, and so one thing I've learned to embrace, the ADD and noticing what shows up in the present moment. So I have nothing. If people, there's no notes. There's just my book here, sitting here. I don't have anything ready to go, Stan. So I'm gonna go, just taking a moment. If I slow down and I just check in with myself. Oh, and I just sort of notice what shows up. You are loved regardless of what your mind tells you. We all struggle. This is not your fault. We have this evolved mind. We didn't choose to be here, but we're here. And we can learn to love ourselves, even with all our different flaws. We're all awesome and we're all flawed. So that means we're freaking flawsome, just as we are. So those few things, and everyone you see has a deep inner struggle, just like you. And that is part of that common humanity, that we're all here. We all suffer. It's the price of admission. You are loved even with your flaws. You're flawsome. And then I blow a big kiss to him. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for what was an entertaining and vibrant, as well as, yes, very, very insightful. Lots of things for me to go and meditate over there, and sort of thoughts and ideas and stories. I really so much appreciate your approach with all this, and the way that you're, kind of getting that message out there. You do it with so much heart and just genuine kindness, and I appreciate it very much. if people were wanting to get in touch or that sort of thing, well, you have the compassion collaboration as well.
Yeah, the Compassionate Mind Collaborative, Compassionate Mind Collaborative. Check us out. We're really wanting to bring people who are doing all kinds of compassionate practices together. So feel free to the Compassionate Mind Collaborative. Check it out. Chris and Heather Fraser, you'll find us.
Okay.
And Stan, for me to sit here, to be with you, to be interviewed is such an honor, because that little boy finally getting to have a voice, sitting in the back of the room so he wouldn't be heard, gets to speak and to spread what's in his heart to a broader audience. Stan, you don't know how much this means to me.
No. Well,
you saw something in me that you felt worthwhile to share with others. So I'm really sincere. I'm sincerely thankful.
And I deeply appreciate your willingness to do all this and take time out of your day to spread such a beautiful message. So thank you, Chris Fraser.
Yeah. We'll do this. We have to do this again. We have to chat again. Maybe next time I interview you on a Compassionate Mind Collaborative, and we'll switch roles. That'll be a blast.
That sounds wonderful. Excellent, mate. All right. Thank you very much, and we will talk again.